you're thinking about buying your first home here in Canada, you might have been wondering how much home can you actually afford in this economy? With your current salary, which one of these homes can you likely afford? This one? Or perhaps this one? Or this one? When I bought my first home here in Toronto, I found it very helpful to use what's called a mortgage affordability calculator. For example, it will say that you can afford a home with a maximum price of $525,000 or even an $810,000 home. And don't worry, in this video, we're going to look at some concrete number examples to find out how much home you can likely afford depending on your salary. But income is not the only thing that influences how much home you can afford or your maximum home price. There are at least 6 factors that influence your maximum. And if you understand these, you can strategize your home buying process so that you can either afford more home, something nicer and bigger, or make tweaks to your financial situation so that you can easier afford the home that you want to buy. So let's walk through the 6 factors that influence how much home you can afford. Some of these things you can directly influence, while others are simply a given based on mortgage lending rules. When you buy a home using a mortgage, the most basic requirement that the mortgage lender will look at is, of course, your income. But income is not just income. You could say that there is a quality aspect to income, and here's what I mean. On one hand, there's employment income that you earn as a salaried employee, and self-employment income, which is generally seen as more risky by the lender and could affect the amount that they might be willing to lend you or result in stricter requirements, such as a higher down payment. Longer employment within the same company or within the same role, for example 4 to 5 years versus just 1 to 2 years, is also seen as more favorable because it shows higher earning stability. Now let's look at some number examples purely based on the amount of salary. And for all examples, let's just assume a down payment of $50,000 for the sake of simplicity, and later on we'll refine. Let's say that your income before taxes is $50,000. In this case, you'll be able to afford a maximum home price of $249,000. At this price, it seems impossible to buy anything at all in Canada, except if you go to some of the cities in Canada which has the cheapest real estate. You can watch this video later if you want to find out more. If your income is $100,000 with the same assumed down payment of $50,000, you can afford a home price of almost $450,000. If you earn a higher income of $150,000, you can afford a home price of $640,000. And finally, with an income of $200,000, your maximum home price is $750,000. But note that all of these numbers are just estimates, and to get the actual precise number, you will need to work with a professional. So in all of these examples, we were assuming that you were just going to use your own income. But the great thing is that if you're buying a home together with someone else, for example, your spouse, you can combine your incomes so that you can qualify for a higher home price. The second factor that determines your maximum home price is your down payment amount. In Canada, the minimum down payment required is 5% of the home purchase price, but that's only for home prices of $500,000 or less. For larger amounts, you'll need a down payment of 10% for the portion above the $500,000, and even 20% if the purchase price is above $1 million. And also, if you're self-employed, the lender might need a higher down payment. Now let's take a quick look at how different down payment amounts will affect your maximum home price. Let's say your income is $100,000. Previously, with a down payment of $50,000, you would be able to afford a home that costs almost $450,000. Now, with a $25,000 higher down payment of $75,000, you can now afford a home that costs $466,000. But you might notice here that the amount only went up by $16,000 instead of the full $25,000 in extra down payment. And the reason for that is that in this example, the $75,000 down payment only constitutes about 16% of the home purchase price. And for down payments below 20%, there's a rule that says that you will need to buy mortgage loan insurance, or what's also called CMHC insurance. Now let's increase the down payment to $100,000. So an income of $100,000 and a down payment of $100,000 as well, the maximum home price is now almost $500,000. It went up by the full $50,000. Because in this example, the down payment is over 20%, there is no CMHC insurance due. So you can just play around with these numbers, and it's actually really fun. Now let's take another example where you could get by with a down payment of just 5%. If your income is $150,000 and your down payment just $30,000, you could still afford a home priced at $550,000. The down payment here is just a bit over 5%. Now, of course, this only shows what is possible and not necessarily what is recommended. There's a rule of thumb that is known as the 30-30-3 rule that says that you should have 30% of the home value saved up in cash, with a 20% for your down payment, so you will not need to pay the CMHC insurance. But let's be real here. Even if you're earning a decent salary, this is really hard to achieve, unless you've been saving up for a down payment for years and years. In many cases, this could mean delaying your home purchase, which, this is just my personal opinion, is not always the best idea, but that's a video for another time. Saving up for a down payment can be really challenging, but there are some government saving plans that can help you to do that faster. For example, by saving your down payment in an FHSA or First Home Savings account and then an RSP. Money that you put into these accounts are tax deductible, which means that effectively you'll be paying 20 to 30% less in income taxes. But of course, it's not as simple as that, and there is much more to it. So if you want to find out more, later on you can watch this video here on FHSA versus RSP versus TFSA. And if your plan is to buy a home in the long term, you can even invest your money in one of these tax-sheltered accounts to let your money grow first. By the time you access your down payment, that money will have grown to a much larger amount. And it might sound a bit complicated, but it's really not. You can easily do that by just signing up to one of the investment platforms out there. The one that I like to use is Wealthsimple. We saved up our down payment in our RSP accounts before there was the FHSA on the Wealthsimple platform. And I just love it because it's so easy to use for beginners. And unlike some other platforms, Wealthsimple doesn't charge any commissions for buying and selling stocks and ETFs. So if you want to try out Wealthsimple, you can use my link in the descriptions down below. And once your account is funded, both you and I will each get a $25 bonus. Now let's continue with the next 4 factors influencing your maximum home price. The next thing that you can tweak is your credit. Your credit score and credit history shows to the lender how reliable you are in paying off your debt. Very important to them. So mortgage lenders will typically give a lower mortgage interest rate to people with a high credit score of, let's say, 780 compared to someone with a 650 credit score. And this indirectly affects your maximum home price. If you have a very low credit score, let's say below 600, then the only way that you might get a mortgage is probably with an alternative lender who will give you a much higher interest rate. A higher mortgage interest rate leads to higher monthly payments and more interest payments, so the maximum home price that you can afford will be lower. A very high credit score, on the other hand, can lead to lower interest rates. And lower interest payments can mean that you'll be able to afford more home. But what if your credit score is just not that awesome? If you want to find out a foolproof way to increase your credit score, then watch this video later. The next factor influencing your maximum home price is your debt service ratio, which shows your personal ability to repay debt. And these can be broken down into GDS and TDS. I don't want to bore you with this, so I'll try to make it quick, but these are really important because they will affect your borrowing terms. GDS, or gross debt service ratio, is your housing cost as a percentage of your income, and that includes your monthly mortgage payment, your property taxes, utility bills including heating costs, and your condo fee. And this ratio cannot be higher than 39%. If it is higher than 39%, then it means that you likely can't afford it. And you can just plug your numbers into calculators like this one here on woa.ca. With a $100,000 income, $2,500 mortgage payment monthly, $2,000 in property taxes annually, $150 heating bill per month, and $350 in condo fees, your GDS, your gross debt service ratio, is 37%, which is still in the acceptable range. But if we increase the mortgage payment to $2,800 and the property taxes to, let's say, $2,400, the GDS becomes 39.9%, which will quickly disqualify you for a mortgage. Now let's quickly look at the TDS, which is more general than the GDS. TDS looks at both housing costs and debt repayment. including credit card debt, car loans, and others. The TDS limit here is 44%. And this makes sense because if you have a bunch of other loans to pay, the lender will feel uneasy about lending you a large mortgage. So you can just tweak the numbers here and then calculate backwards how much home you can afford. From there, you can either increase your income or reduce your debt. And it can also be useful to calculate it the other way around. And for that, you can use this mortgage payment calculator, where you input the home price, the down payment that you have saved up, and other details, and then it will calculate for you the approximate monthly payments based on different interest rates. And that brings us to the next important factor which determines your maximum home price, which is the mortgage interest rate. And these have been on the rise lately, but soon enough we'll see them dropping a bit, hopefully. So all things staying the same, your income, your down payment, and your credit score, you can get a different mortgage interest rate with different lenders. So don't just immediately sign up for a mortgage with your existing bank, but rather try and search and hunt for the best mortgage interest rate. And for that, consider getting the help of what's called a mortgage broker. And if you're interested to find out how I secured an approximately 1% lower mortgage interest rate, you can watch this video up here later. So mortgage brokers are professionals who will help you scour the various lenders out there to ensure that you get the best terms possible. And again, if you can get a lower interest rate, you can end up affording more home. And for starters, you can also just use websites like RateHub here that will show you different mortgage rates offered by different lenders. And the next factor that influences how much home you can afford is the amortization period, or for how long you will be paying the mortgage. Ideally, of course, people would love to pay off their mortgage within, let's say, just 10 years, but for most people, it's just not within the realm of possibility. So if you opt for a longer amortization period, let's say 25 years, you will have more time to pay off that mortgage and lower monthly payments. And if you have a lower monthly payment, that will drive your GDS and TDS down, which may result in your lender approving you for a larger amount so that you can buy a more expensive home. Guys, let me know in the comments below where you are in your home purchasing process right now. And if you've already bought a home, then feel free to share your experiences in the comments down below. I'm sure that it will help plenty of people who are still in the very beginning of their home buying journey. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you again soon.